Yeah.
Management Monday. So Jody, I did message you to see if we could get in touch about the Trello thing. I was feeling a bit unwell on Friday, so I wasn't able to meet with Jody, but hopefully we can, I don't have COVID, guys.
Yay.
Jody said some prayers.
I was worried. I was saying a lot of prayers.
Kind of like what Kate, kind of what you had, like really feverish, but like I wasn't coughing or anything. And then I was so fatigued. And then I was like, oh, this is it.
Well, even if you had COVID, you did die from it. So, you know.
I know, but I'm very conscious and it was a big reality, like a big wake up call to stop, not be so kind of, you know, fatigued about being cautious, I guess is the way.
Yeah. Stay vigilant.
Yeah, right, exactly. So Jody, if we could meet perhaps tomorrow, Tuesday, if you could just message me and we can try and get that up. Because as I said, the Trello aspect is going to become much more important as we stop having these kind of full-time volunteers. We want to have that tight.
Yeah, just to let everybody know, I think the biggest challenge that we just need to kind of figure out, it's easy to work around, we just need to figure it out. So the way that Maeve and I want to set up the boards is to program automation into it so that like when a new card pops up, it automatically follows a format, and just try to put as much automation in the boards as possible. So to set up those rules in Butler, the rules work for the board no matter who's in there. However, the rules can only be seen by the person who created the rule. So like if Maeve and I want to collaborate and each work on rules for the board, we can't see what rules the other person's done because it's with her profile and my profile.
And you can't edit them afterwards?
No, you can't even see them. Forget about editing.
If I create,
the owner can edit them.
Yeah. So what the work
owner
that we
can
thought
edit
was
them.
like creating a Gmail account that just had like an admin.
That was going to be my suggestion.
Yeah.
Great minds.
Great mind.
Great minds.
If
Now,
we're doing
another problem.
if we're doing that, can we give it a GitHub account so that it can get all the notifications from people giving you the feedback? Yeah.
We'll
Yes.
have to figure it. Yeah.
That'd be exciting.
Then Maeve, tell them the other problem.
So we are so excited, guys. We are nailing this Trello thing. We've got this down. And then we see, how did we even stumble across it? We see that you can't, each person gets like a limited number of automations. Like, so if I get on, each account gets a limited number of automations. And we were like, well, now what? You know?
So every time, like what I was just describing, like say, like we, you know, our idea was to use the checklists as like criteria, like the checklist feature within the cards, to use that checklist feature to like determine as soon as all those items are checked, then move the card. So as soon as like it adds a check, like we were going to create automation to add a checklist once a card pops up here, right? Check. That's an automate, like that's a movement. That's an action. You know, anytime it did any kind of automated movement, that's an action. So because we were trying to figure out like how to see the rules together because of that rule limitation. And then we learned that it's because of a licensing thing. You have to have like the business or like the top 2 tiers of Trello licensing. That's what you need to have in order to like condense all the rules and for everybody to be able to see them. Then we stumbled upon this limitation with the automation. So we don't really know. It said that the automation, your automation capacity is limited to storage. So I would imagine our storage is very small, but I don't really know. It's not like it said you have 1,000 like actions a month. It's not like it gave
buttons.
It said
things
that
like twine, like a cat. Okay.
So yeah, so we're a little bit kind of, it's not like it's going to take a ton of effort to set it up and set up an account and then set it up. So like we can do that. I think what I'm the most worried about is that all of a sudden the automation just stops because we've reached our quota and it's like the 14th of the month. And then now everything's confused. Like everyone's confused because the cards aren't doing what they're supposed to do. And so it's a risk. It's not quite a problem yet. It's a risk. And so
that is that the constraint is tied to the Trello account, not to like a third-party integration.
Correct.
It's just a Trello. Everything's done through Trello. So it's kind of like we make one step forward and then we get 2 steps back, and we kind of realize these things are by accident. And it works so well. The functionality is there. It's just, as Jody says, it's the risk.
I'm looking at the pricing, and there's no way we'll be able to afford it because it's like $10 a pop per.
With my salary
person.
on top of everything. We can't afford this.
But wait a minute. What if we just, you know what? No, I wonder if we just if it's only $10 a pop, what if we just paid for one
per user?
That's what I mean. What if we just paid for the one user that created all the rules?
Your Gmail person makes your Gmail.
Well, the question though is where the automation is tied to.
Right.
So usually it's per user per month. It's for your team. So if that applies to the
one person, one account.
Right, but the question is,
that team then share it with other people? I mean, they usually try to stop you from.
Well, the rules apply for other people's accounts.
They've probably figured out to not.
So they're not going to make a loophole that big for people to drive through.
Yeah.
So the thing to do is figure out if we can find a way to get a reduced or free donation from Trello.
We have already looked at that, and there are.
All right.
There are reduced like team rates.
Still unaffordable. Even the reduced fees are unaffordable.
But that's the thing is I don't want to have to pay for this free. So, and I think there is a way that we can get around it. We just kind of, Jody and I need to apply our minds a little bit more.
Keep trying different ways.
Do it, yeah.
Well, I mean, it seems unlike, like we just said, which made a lot of sense to me. Like Trello's fairly savvy and good at this stuff. So it seems like if they want you to pay for something, it seems like you will end up having to pay for it. Yeah. So I'm not sure there is going to be a way within Trello itself without.
I think it's
what about, have you guys tried if this then that?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Or Zapier. Yeah.
Or Zapier.
Well,
we do have a Zapier account.
As well.
Yes, but we have a Zapier account with the lab.
Okay.
Oh, well then, I bet that'll take care of it.
It doesn't have much in it, but
that's where I can do that. Okay.
My thought is that we can try to just minimize the automation. Like we were going to just try to automate everything. And now what we can do is, maybe this is kind of what I was thinking. What we can do is go through and just sort of like draft out all of the automation that we're thinking.
Right, what needs to get added, what needs to get moved.
Draft out all the automation, and then we'll be able, rather than just go do it, and then we'll be able to identify like kind of the, you know, the ones that are the most important to automate. And then those are the ones we can automate. And let's use our actions, like let's use our, you know, let's use those.
I gotta help a 6-year-old. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I would like to just caution from my personal experience about automating too much, because when you automate, you lose flexibility, and that means that the things you didn't account for aren't fixable.
That's all the stuff that we've been talking about with John.
Okay.
Yeah, all of that. So but I think to your point, like, I think you'll be happy, Michelle, based on that concern, because I don't disagree with you at all.
Yeah, it was our concern as well. That's what we went to him with.
Right. We didn't want to like paint ourselves into a corner with automation. Awesome. And so I think the limitations that we're sort of like faced with now that we've discovered, that's going to mitigate the risk for everything you just talked about. So we're going to just have to pick, like, you know, we're going to have to go with the ones that kind of pack the biggest punch, and those are the things we'll choose to automate. And then for everything else, we'll just have like a written process of this is how it goes and this is what you do. So we'll just have somebody manually doing the things that we would have otherwise automated.
All right.
And then we'll kind of see how it goes, and we'll see what I don't even know if they'll let us see like what our quota is, like how, hey, you know, last month you were at 90%. So then we could say, oh, let's add another piece of automation to use that 10%. I don't even know if they're going to let us see that, because if they're smart, they probably won't. They'll just want you to buy this.
They'll just let you know when you've reached it.
Exactly.
But Jody, let's talk about this. Tomorrow. And we can then get this up and running. And as you said, draft out everything we need automated. Right. We've kind of got like draft boards so far, because we went with the 3 boards, the pre-processing, the development, and the testing.
Right.
And the idea to have a single source of truth. So one card moving across all 3 boards. As I said, it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Every time we make progress, it's kind of like, anyway, so hopefully by the end of this week, and as I said, in the back of my mind is the idea that this is going to have to, we're going to have to be relying on Trello again very soon. So we want to get this done as soon as possible. Okay.
Yeah.
So there were some notes in here about what we wanted to talk about this meeting. I'm going to just refer to Black quickly.
I'd like to add, I wasn't sure where to add to that, but tell me where and I will put it. Maybe I'll just put it in the channel.
Okay, so I'm just
admin channel.
So we've got from Quinton, checklist for getting forms installed on the test server so we can distribute links to courts and testers. More people can be trained on how to do this. Do you have anything? Do we need to add anything there? What?
No, the basic thought is, I think that just came up in our stand-up. So we have it ready. How do we get it to the court? And there's a bunch of manual things that I do right now, but I want to make sure more people can install it.
So it's not all on. It's not all on you to do that manually, right? That's where we want to go. Yeah,
we want it to be documented so anyone can do it.
Okay. So make a note here. Documented. Is there a way that you could, have you recorded yourself doing it or anything at the moment?
No, I haven't. But there's also a checklist part, which is making sure that the user who worked on the form, the developer of the form, has saved all their changes to GitHub on the master branch, because I don't think that's always routinely happening when people think that they're done.
Yeah.
And then sharing the name of the package. So it's part of it is it's gathering that information. I think a checklist works. It also could be a form that people fill out to say, I'm done, here's the information. So then it's a checklist to follow to copy it in.
And then they could put in the links and everything that they need in that form, right?
Right.
So we can either have it as a checklist or form. And is it in the form of a checklist anywhere right now?
Nope. I'm also aware of the fact that it's only probably 4 more forms that we have to go through that for the next month, but
it would nice to get started in
I think that I think Quentin and I were having this discussion earlier today, which is that basically I'm afraid that once we get out of August, that whatever processes we have in place will sort of crystallize, because we're going to lose having as many people working as much on it. And even Quentin and my time is going to start to be split, and I think everyone else's time is going to start to be fractured. Now we're trying to make it as possible for us to keep focused on this by making it part of our classes as possible. But we just want to get all that process down. And so a good way to think about it is that with the students we have coming on, they'll be able to do, a 2-credit class like the lab students will be able to do about not quite 3 weeks of work over what has been about 3 weeks of work over the course of the entire semester. So that gives you an idea of the slowdown we're expecting.
And also I think the point of that, we need the processes that we need to get our processes locked down before the end of this month.
Exactly.
And then hopefully that means that those 3 weeks of work can be very efficient, right?
And it also is really important for our replicability goal too, right? So if someone else were going to take this, the more stuff we've written down, the better. I guess I'm thinking the form might be more overhead than is worthwhile. So the checklist might be really useful. But part of the checklist is the person who installs it. Part of the checklist is for the person who creates the form, essentially. So it's kind of 2 different checklists.
Okay, so checklist for installing, checklist for dev.
And it also really touches upon having GitHub packages, repos and stuff. That's part of our strategy too, is making sure that they have their own repo and
from the get-go. Because that was one of the things that I saw, we didn't get GitHub in early enough. We didn't explain that early enough. I was still unsure about it very early on. So people were sharing it on Google Drive and then couldn't see the benefit for a long time of learning this whole new thing. So
Well, even
Aubrey and I are actually, she's helping me write out a kind of step-by-step
okay.
that we might also be able to use to make the videos.
oh, fantastic! That's great. And Eric, have you talked to him
On Wednesday. Huh?
Have you talked to Eric about that?
Oh, not about the stuff
About
I'm doing
GitHub.
with Aubrey. I can talk to Eric about that too. Put that in our channel.
Yeah.
I forgot
my
about that
phone is
channel.
lit.
I'm sorry.
No worries. I just put it out like a map because I think it will be better for us. I don't think Quentin was on the call. I think it was one of those things that we just assigned Quentin to when he wasn't there. We wanted to kind of get like a overview of GitHub, kind of different, everything that's kind of in long-winded videos at the moment, because we were taking people through them ad hoc. We want to kind of get that really tightened up and put into like very concise, clear videos and documentation. So we did, I think that I did message you in that channel as well, Quentin, but that was what that was about. So if Aubrey's in there already and doing stuff, I don't think she was included.
What channel?
Wasn't
What
a
channel is this?
I'll ping you in there now.
Okay.
It was just about, I just had a document there for the guideline. And I thought that might be a nice place that we can just start writing out what needs to be covered. And Eric offered to help us there because he's fresh eyes coming in, not knowing, you know, and having faced a bit of the confusion.
That would be really helpful to have his input.
And Aubrey as well, because Aubrey does have, I think, experience with documentation. So that would be a great, she wasn't included in that channel initially, Michelle. So it might be good if we loop her in there.
We can't get her in there because it's a DM channel. It's not an
Yeah, but there's nothing
channel.
in there now. I mean, so I started a new conversation with her included.
Okay. All right. I mean, we could also just do it in the coding channel and thus invite other people who are interested.
That's
we
a
can
very
do
good
it
point.
mostly in a thread.
You don't want to
You
have
wanna
a
set
would
that
you
up.
want to have a separate documentation channel?
That's also could work.
No,
I mean,
oh,
but the thing is, all the
I know
documentation
you
is going
don't
to
wanna have
pertain
too
to
many
a specific
channels.
channel, though, surely. So, like, there'll
Yeah.
be coding documentation, there'll be UX documentation. So, is it worth having a separate documentation channel, which is kind of then the inverse of the other
It's just,
way?
I think the thing is, I keep realizing it's so hard to find stuff in Slack.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you have too many channels, Quentin sent something. Remember, you sent something,
Yeah.
and we
document.
couldn't find it anywhere. And I knew I'd read it. He knew he'd sent it, and it was
in
It
UX.
was in the doc assembly. It was in doc assembly workspace assembly line channel. But you know,
Of
so
course.
I realize there's a disadvantage, but also sometimes categorizing things. You just think, where on earth do you find this thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a trade-off then.
Well, and again, remember what you guys just said, you know, we're moving into like less people, less time. The pace is going to slow down a lot. So let's not overcomplicate it. That's my thought.
So you think not have an extra channel, just put it in the coding?
I would say just whatever is going to be, I don't necessarily know what the right answer is. I just think whatever is going to not overcomplicate it. Like think about this, think about solving this problem a month from now.
I would say when I want to talk about coding stuff, I go to code, right? When I want to talk about UX stuff, I go to UX. If I'm trying to find something about code in documentation, I'm not sure if it's in documentation or if it's in code. Like if I'm trying to find, you know, if there's a documentation channel, then it's like, did I put that code thing in there? Or did I put the code thing in the code channel, right?
Well, yeah, that's
Maybe we do documentation.
That's a good point, because when people, like, if new people join and they're just looking at the channels, what's going to be sort of intuitive for them to go jump to? And like Michelle was saying too, for like veterans, if they want to look for something, what are they going to, like, what's the mentality of like looking for something? Or if I've got something to post, where am I going to post it? What?
The other thing about that is that Slack is so ephemeral. So you know, a month from now, you're never going to
Gone.
find it. That's,
Right.
I think that's the thing, is to think about, unless we have,
Well,
unless
that's what the
we decide
documentation
certain
is.
things
This is
are-
why we're
That's why we're trying to document
This is
it.
the perpetual organizational problem, right? Like, how do you create a
Yeah.
knowledge repository? I've tried lots of different ways. I don't think I've solved the problem, but people
Okay,
use
I was waiting for the answer there, Quentin. You built it up.
OneNote is
Yeah.
kind of the best that I've found, to be honest.
kind of
Although
the best.
OneNote.
OneNote, yeah, I haven't
Jody
really
got
used
me
it.
converted onto that. I'm like an addict.
Oh, you already use OneNote.
I
So-
just started. Jody got me into when Jody and I started working together on this project. She got me into OneNote, and it's really changed the way that I work.
Yeah, I've used it for like 12, 13 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty good tool, I think.
I think it's honestly like, I don't think there is one perfect answer for everyone, because otherwise this wouldn't be like you said, and this wouldn't be the perpetual problem that just never ends.
Also, conversation that always I just see so many people asking about it, like on the legal services technology list. Like everyone's always wanting to know, how do we solve knowledge transfer and storage and information?
Like, to be honest, I've even thought so much about the fact of this is the first time I've ever worked on a project where we don't use email. And there are advantages to that and there are disadvantages to that. But I'm kind of thinking, because Caroline, I think you're the one that said it, like, the problem is, like, a month later, you can't find it. You absolutely can't find it if something's in Slack. Whereas at least with email, like, my brain, I used to have tons of email folders, and then I realized that my brain remembers who sent me the email. So it's pointless for me to have stuff in folders, because I just go search the person and then I can figure out where the email is. That's the kind of, so it's more about just what's right for this team, for this project. And that's why I keep saying we probably want to think about it, you know, a month from now. What is the answer a month from now and not now? Because that's going to be what it's like until next week.
I will say the most effective.
Shared? I mean, would OneNote be shared, or does everybody have their own OneNote? How does
That's a really good point. So yes, OneNote is shareable,
right?
And we could host it on like a Suffolk domain, so that
You have to pay your own.
But we could also just, you know,
we're
like,
moving to 365, so we might actually have licenses.
yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
part
for the
of-
OneNote
part
online.
of the Office suite. So everyone should, all the students,
I have
everyone
it for free
should have it.
in my office.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
Aubrey does not like OneNote, just so you know. Not everybody's a fan.
Aubrey
But that
doesn't like it.
mean- Well, not for a lot of things.
There's
She-
some overhead to it, right?
something.
The other thing to think about is it's not really like a public archive the same way
Right.
that, like, you know, it's not going to be our way to communicate to the world. It's
Right.
something that can be a team
Internal.
adopted internal tool.
Yeah.
But if we also want to take this and learn from it and do your thing with it, then that kind of points to
I
something
wish we
else like GitHub Pages or.
I wish we
agree.
could have
I
I
think
wish we could have
something
a
like a
Stack
web
Overflow.
page.
sorry, okay, wait. We're all speaking at once. Okay, so Michelle?
Just Stack Overflow, if there were a way for us, if anyone has enough points on Stack Overflow, to make a new group on Stack Overflow. I think it works really well, or at least that's where I look for most of the stuff I'm looking for. Stack Exchange, maybe, I think, is the meta one.
We've already got the Lit Lab page, like the web page on the, right?
That's
Like,
not what, okay, is that a different
What
one? Sorry.
what if we just created like a repository there and then Slack could point to it? I mean, do we have to make it any more, like, do we need another tool? Do we need another?
That's what I'm thinking. The simplest way.
No, we can
Just
use.
keep using GitHub, you're saying?
Oh yeah, I think GitHub Pages works fine. I mean, the point is we just need it's just the same thing. I mean, this is what we've been moving for the entire time with the handbook and the documentation, is that we want to have documentation and a place to point people to.
And this
Yeah.
is what I'm
Good.
thinking. My argument is
Good.
that we use Slack to discuss the things that we want to include in the documentation. Within that month, we incorporate that into the documentation. And hopefully, this month our drive is really to document our processes and to get everything tight. So we know that there's about a month leeway in Slack that we've got messages from going back. So
We have
as I said, the code, sorry?
David can download more. I mean,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
have-
I
Is
get
it
all
easy
of them.
to
It's not easy to look through them though.
yeah. I mean, it is there. It's not like they've disappeared. But the thing
but
is,
we might
try
be
and
able
have
to
it like,
upload it into the app that we had talked about earlier. Never mind. We can figure that out later. Yeah.
so my thing is
Sorry.
that we need to figure out what documentation we want. handbooks, guidelines, and all this kind of stuff, we can discuss that by all means in the Slack channels. And I think the channels that we have right now are fine. Maybe we tag it with documentation or something like that to indicate that it's documentation message. And then kind of come up with especially using the team members that we have right now. Aubrey is one that comes to mind just specifically because she offered her services as a documentation person. So really have a drive for that this month, and keep talking in Slack. But do we then make the documentation in GitHub? Do we make the documentation in Google Docs, which is what most of it is in right now? I think Slack should really just be a means of communication that you're not going to be looking back on, so to speak. Your AD is documented.
What about just putting it on the website, like the Lit Lab? Like, what about is there any reason to not associate it with that and to keep it like in a Google Drive?
No.
Or
The idea is simply that using Google and stuff as tools is easier overhead than creating the website.
Because somebody else,
what we do is we create like, once it's, while it's super like dynamic, we draft it, create it, work on it in Google Docs or whatever. And then once it's more static, not that it's never going to change once we, finish it at the end of the month, but then post it on the website. And then maybe we just do like a quarterly document review.
Yeah, or there's also not a big reason to switch over from if the Google Docs are working, those can be shared
and that's
as well. We can just change permissions so that everyone can see and only certain people can edit.
Okay.
But that being said,
what we put on the website, like maybe what we put on the Lit Lab website is just a link to those.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That being said, to the extent that there are individual trainings and stuff that would be useful, Quentin has his legal textbook that he's curating. So I want to think about, to the extent that we have things that would be appropriate to put there, we definitely put them there. But that's not going to be everything, obviously.
Okay.
That is
some of that project specific, but there is definitely going to be stuff that could fit in both.
Yeah, anything that has a broader use definitely should go
GitHub.
there. Another point, this is it's actually another documentation website, right? So I built on a tool called Docusaurus, which Facebook created to help create documentation for open source projects. So we could totally, if we're talking about the different learning curves though, Google Drive, or Google Doc rather, OneNote, is the next slightly hardest. And then GitHub Pages, and then Docusaurus is definitely harder to learn. So there's more overhead to it, but you can have it really well organized.
There's also the wiki on the GitHub pages.
GitHub Pages, yeah.
Not GitHub Pages, on the GitHub repositories themselves, they have wikis.
That's true. Yep. That would be the wiki approach. I've tried that. I haven't found it like super.
I think it can get pretty messy pretty quickly.
No one ever edits the wiki.
Documentation.
And then the problem there too is there's no way to export it. So it's not version controlled like everything else. It's the same
I think you can download and grep. I mean, you can get the wiki from off the repository.
So
whatever. I think there are lots of options.
Yeah, no,
So it sounds like, since we're trying to optimize for speed, that we should just capture everything in Google Docs right now.
Yeah.
And we can find a better place for it if we think there needs to be a better place later, and if we have the capacity. My suspicion, however, though, is that we don't really have a lot of capacity, and where the documentation goes now, it will live there for a long time. So we should be happy with what we choose.
Yes.
The interim measure, so to speak.
And the nice thing is anyone can edit Google Docs, right?
Very low
that's
overhead.
also, it's the nice thing, but it's also a risk too.
No, but that can easily be addressed. You just change the permissions on the documents.
So.
Well, I do like your point though, Jody, of making sure that we have an index to all the places we're storing information somewhere. Because not everything is.
That's a really good idea.
So we need one place to find the place.
I think that should live on the Lit Lab. I feel like that should.
Well, a link to it should be.
Yeah.
So
I imagine that
Sorry, David.
Oh, well, you probably were about to say what I was going to say, which is that there's a Google Doc that points to things. So we just need to point to that one Google Doc.
I keep coming back to the whole thing of single source of truth, and we need to have one place where we keep the links to all the documentation. And kind of to that point, we need to figure out, what do we actually want to document? What are the processes that we want to document? We've got so much documentation already out there. What can we kind of use, combine or split, or, and I think the guiding principle should be the three kind of, I wouldn't call them silos because they do mix, but pre-processing, development, and testing. I think each documentation can fit maybe within one of those or across generally. So maybe we can all kind of think about that. I've tried to keep most of the documentation in the DocAssemble Google Drive, which is, I think Suffolk owns that. But I know that not everyone, like some people just make it in their own Google Drive and then share that link.
Yeah,
so maybe
that's what I did with like the 209A testing. I didn't even
exactly.
know it.
So maybe what we could do is we could just kind of do almost like a inventory, so to speak.
Yes.
I'll have a look at the DocAssemble, because that's where most of it is. Are you playing with Duplo, David?
Yeah, it's what I fidget with when I'm
I thought it was a Rubik's Cube.
I fidget with that as well at work, but it's at work in my office. So luckily the Duplo's box is just down here at my feet. That's where the kids build things. So.
So what I'll do is I'll have a look and kind of make a inventory, so to speak, of what we have in the DocAssemble Drive, and what kind of maybe I know or linked to or something like that. And then if everyone else who's already done documentation, and I know for a fact Michelle's done some, Caroline's done some, and Jody's done some, if you could just think about what you've done, we have a look at your Google Drives as well, and maybe we can just have like a, I don't know, documentation thread, where we kind of get everything together and we kind of see all the different pieces that we have, see maybe how we're going to review them, update them, what needs to be created, what needs to be changed, and maybe if we can try and assign some of those tasks out as well. Is everyone okay with that?
That sounds good.
So tonight I'll have a look and I'll make that inventory of what's in the DocAssemble Google Drive. And then I'll start that thread, sorry. And then I'll just tag everyone else and they can just put in other stuff that they found. And then we'll go from there on that. Okay. Right. Next thing was check in with folks about how the upcoming fall semester will be different for Suffolk students. David and I being Quentin, both expect,
Yes.
David and I both expect to encourage students to participate in the assembly line project and want to make sure everyone is comfortable with how that will play out, with students earning credits for the work on the project and the role of volunteers in mentoring and advising them.
So that's really David for you to answer.
Yeah, we don't want anyone to feel like they're in some respect. So for example, I don't want you to feel like, oh, here I am with my big salary. And therefore, and providing stuff to students who are paying to get that stuff. We want to make sure that it's understood what the roles are and that everyone's comfortable with their role. We see the document assembly line project and mass access as sort of a separate project that the lab is helping coordinate and all the volunteers are working on. We're providing the convening for it and we're trying to keep it alive. But we have this mission over at the university to teach students stuff, and we think there's a role for them to learn some stuff by doing, but we don't want anyone to feel like they're taking on a role of being something that they're paying for, right? So we just want everyone to be comfortable and upfront about where they are comfortable and what their role is. And to that extent, Quentin and I obviously are going to step up and take on a more sort of mentor instructor role in some of our student interactions. So the thing you should understand is we have these 3 different classes, 4 different placements really, that will be working on things in the project. So there are the 2 classes that Quentin and I are teaching. In those 2 classes, we're going to offer the option that students can work on this project as a final project in a class. In that case, we're not going to give them much supervision because it's going to be like, here's a final project. what we normally do for final products is we say, go find a partner, work with them, do a thing. So there will sort of be like, go do your thing.
And this will be the
those
thing
are
that they will be working on.
Yeah, this will be the thing that they'll do is it would be like going to a legal aid agency and saying, hey, I'm here to help, give me a project to help on, and then basically we'll give them a form, right? Okay.
So we need to
They're not going to be,
we need to think about those kind of
Yeah.
that intake as well.
So we need to think about that, and they're not going to really be able to start until maybe like 6 weeks in, and then what they're going to be able to do is just work on one form basically.
Yeah.
Okay, over the remainder of that time. Then we're going to have lab students, which are the ones who are working in our lab doing experiential ed, and our clinical students. Those students are going to basically be working on this, not full-time, but full-time for that credit. So basically they'll be working 7 hours a week on this project, as opposed to like most of the time working on classwork, and then this is a project to do at the end.
Okay.
Those students, Quentin and I need to have a much more, a bigger presence in their supervision, because what we need to do is the idea is that's very much, they're getting their credits through experiential education. So we're helping them do that by allowing them to reflect on the work they're doing, et cetera, and help them unpack their experience. But it means that Quentin and I will have this weird sort of like situation where there'll be some people working on stuff where we'll be like, okay, do your own thing, and then maybe talk to me in my role as someone as part of the DocuSymbol project, where we'll have other students will be like, okay, work with me here, but then also interface there. So we recognize that this could be confusing, and Michelle has a question, so go with it.
I do. I've worked with students informally before, and there's always this question of like, how much of this is homework that you need to figure out on your own, and how much of this is like, let me show you how to do this thing, right? And where is that line? Like, I don't want to do your work, right? But if I edit on your screen, or if I tell you what to type, like, what does that? That would be my point. We don't have to answer that right now, but like
consideration.
Like an honor code question is what you basically are having, Michelle, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, maybe you're not thinking of it that way, but like, so would the students be cheating if you help them? That's kind of your question.
Yeah.
Is there a point at which your help would be cheating?
Yeah.
I don't know, David has probably thought about this a lot more than me, but certainly like for the one class that I've taught, my thinking on it is they are trying flavor of coding. They come in with really different backgrounds and experiences, and some of them, the coding is natural, but for all of them, they're learning something through the project that they create, through the interactions with other people, trying to build something, the right thing to meet someone's needs. So like, I don't have any problem if they copied exact code from somewhere and put it into their project. It's a module that they could use that solved their problem, because they had to identify, this is solving the problem that I have.
But someone looking at their exact code and saying, this is the solution you need, is not the same. They don't go through the same assessment.
The rubric here is, I think, what we've been already doing on the project, which is that the question is that action that you're taking with them going to facilitate them to do more in the future or not? Right? So to the extent that it's something that is empowering them to do more in the future, great. To the extent you actually are doing work that then they will add no value to and will not use to leverage in the future, then that's where I'd put the line. So if it's the first time they've ever seen something and you need to hold their hand, that's great. But because hopefully then the next time around they're going to be able to do more. But it should always be with that. I mean, it's just like an employee, and as far as sort of like the volunteer situation is, it's what do you do with it? It's not like you don't feel bad about helping your employee get the skills they need to be able to do it later. You worry about you worry about self-learned helplessness or something like that. So that's what you want to avoid.
Sure. You don't want to give them
kind
a
of a subjective call, really, isn't it? It's when you're talking to the person, does it sound like they've thought about the issue, or they're just coming to you? It's that same thing as that you have to evaluate for yourself. Have they spent 20 minutes or half an hour? Does it look like even, I think you, and Michelle, the thing is, you're a really good teacher.
Yeah.
You know, and what
Really
you're doing
good.
with Mariah right now, you're not teaching her, you're trying to figure the problem, but she's not your student. You know what I mean? But you know when to take over, and you know when to sort of guide people. And I've watched and heard you and heard what other people say about the way you explain things. And I think you personally don't have to worry about it.
And teasing things out of people, right? That's something that you're good at. It's like prompting them to the point where you're like, okay, actually they maybe just don't know. So let's just, okay.
Yeah.
But if you feel like they do know, then it's like, we'll tease it out.
Yeah. And very clearly, we don't want your role is not to teach them something for law school for the credit. Your role is within the project.
Don't worry
about that. That's not gonna.
I'm just saying, like your role, you will play a mentorship and a teaching role, but that's in the way that one does in a volunteer, in a project, an endeavor such as this. Quentin and I will do the stuff we need to do to get them to, sort of do the metacognition around, like, okay, so you did this work. What did you learn about that? And we'll help them unpack that and do that sort of stuff.
Okay.
So really, your role shouldn't have to change at all from what it is now. It's just we want people to understand that, like, we don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable about anything, because we are highly aware of the fact that no one is getting paid. I mean, Jody's getting a little credit. Kate and Caroline are both paid in their normal capacities and then allowed to do this, as are Quentin and I. But Michelle and Maeve, you two are just saints.
You're just angels.
So
it holds up my halo.
That's right.
No, but I mean, I've said this so many times, that the amount of stuff that I've gotten out of this project, I feel more grateful for the opportunity, because I mean, it's been such a huge learning experience. It's something that I would have paid to learn, if you know what I mean. Like, I would have gladly paid for this kind of experience, and I don't think you could have actually bought it.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to be writing some wonderful recommendations for you at some point in the future.
Stop. You say that to all the girls. No, but seriously, it's been.
I expect a recommendation to Suffolk Lab. To Suffolk Law, right? I mean, obviously.
Michelle's gonna be.
Well, there you go. You enroll.
No, but it's just been. I don't ever see it as that. I see it more as being really grateful for the opportunity to be kind of really immersed in a project like this and having to take on the responsibility and stuff like that. And Michelle, I don't know, do you feel the same? I don't feel.
Yeah, I've been learning a lot. It's been very painful, but I've been learning a lot.
I know
that's what learning is.
Well, good. We just want everyone to be comfortable. And then I guess the next thing is that obviously we have through August, we're going to work on documentation, focus on documentation. We're going to enter this contraction where basically all the students who are like able to give like what they can give in a week now is going to be something that the equivalent they'll be able to give over a semester. And then we've probably got a good pipeline of students on this for this semester, which Quentin and I were thinking we probably have about a dozen or so, but again, they're going to be compressed down in this weird time way.
Yep.
And probably about half of those are not going to actually really be able to start in earnest for 6 weeks into the semester. So it's really, really going to tamp down the throughput. And obviously, Quentin and my attentions are going to be focused not entirely on this. Also, I know Quentin really we need to be focusing with this housing crisis coming up.
Yeah.
His work on MAID, he's going to need to spend some time there, I'm sure. But I guess the thing is, I'd like people to think about what is your time horizon and what are your exit points and what do things, look like. So that's a discussion can be a discussion for a later time and for you to think about.
It also links into something, sorry to interrupt you, that Jody mentioned, exit interviews or exit things that we kind of dropped the ball on with Sinead and Finola. There wasn't a proper kind of like exit briefing.
Yeah, we haven't debriefed them as a thing, but they do write reports for their externship experience. So Jody, you're writing one as well, right? You have your reports. So I was going to ask you and Sinead and Filona if you would be willing to share those with me, and then I would be able to.
Do you think it would be appropriate to offer some of those questions and say maybe these are some of the things you can address? And I think the exit interview is also that's the thing, is the exit interview is more for, at least in my mind, more for our process than for theirs.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
which I don't think they'll be writing about. I don't think they'll
Yeah,
be
no,
like,
it'll be a
the
different
most
different
challenging
audience.
part of the program is to you know, I don't think that's really, it's more
Yeah, no.
about
So if we have
No,
some,
so let me understand what you're, I think I'm confused because yeah, I was thinking like we can draft an exit interview and create, like Maeve, I was going to ask you about that too.
Yeah.
Kind of just similar to the form that people fill out when they first join Slack. You know, like
Okay.
go fill out this basic questionnaire and then whatever. I don't see a problem with still sending that to people that,
no,
like,
I don't
Sinead,
either.
we could still send it to Sinead
Yeah.
and Finola, like it
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
matter, they're done. They'll still fill it
No.
out for us. But David, what were you talking about?
I was thinking about, to the extent that you had any, do you have a final report, or is it just the report stuff we talked about before?
Well, no, we do have a final journal that's due. I don't know if
Mhm.
they've already written theirs, but like mine's due Thursday or Friday. But it's just like a 3-page.
Yeah.
It's just like a 3-page, like summarize your work and what you did and how you feel and blah,
Yeah,
blah,
I have to do a little evaluation for you as well.
blah. Ooh.
So-
Oh, I wonder what he'll say.
Let me have it.
I'm very happy with everyone's work.
So maybe we just, so as we
Yeah, so I think, I'm
people are
sorry,
gonna
so
jump
I
in.
think those were two different discussions. So I
Okay.
think for the one that you were bringing up, and I think this is also what Michelle had brought up at one point in a Slack to me, is just a survey, like exit interview, to like get some action points for us for improving the process going forward.
Just,
Okay.
yeah, some basic feedback. Yep.
those were the questions I was listing in the
So yeah, Michelle put a bunch of great questions in there. Do we want to just like leave them? Do we
I'll
want
at
to
you there.
go ahead and leave them all in there? And then, you know, people don't necessarily have to answer them all. But my question was like, how quick do we want, like, do we want to make it a quick survey? Do we want to make it longer? I guess for people like Sinead and Finola that were invested all summer, I think they'd be invested and
Yeah.
they'd be willing to share, like answer as many questions as we put in there. But for somebody that maybe popped in for testing for a week or two, I don't think they're going to want to fill that out. So,
And also you should ask to what extent are they going to, are the answers to those questions going to provide actionable information?
yes.
Right.
So we need to drop those questions with the idea of what answers do we want at the end of the day? What answers are going to be able to guide us?
Yeah.
What information do we want?
What information do we want?
What information do we
Right.
want?
The answers we want are, we're doing a perfect job.
Yeah.
You can
the
easily
answer I
ask, you
want.
can easily make the survey that if there is, how great a job are we doing? Excellent job. Good job. Great
We
job.
just need our ego stroked, please. Just give us kudos.
So okay, so that's a good point. So the information that we want, what information do we want from outgoing team members? Like that, I mean,
So that's, I think, part of what I was trying to address in those questions, but I think it's worth just, you know, writing a list of that too.
So
but I don't know where, so.
I almost feel like so here I think, you know, simple is probably best. So I almost think about this like the traditional project retrospective, sort of agile set of questions, which is, you know, what did we do that worked? What did we do that didn't work? What's something new that we should try?
I think sometimes it can be useful if you get a bit more specific.
Yeah, you can be, I think you can get more specific, but I'm just saying that's the sort of guide of the universe. So, you know, what didn't work, what did work, what new things, right? So I think most of your questions will fall into those buckets.
And I think for me, the biggest thing for me is whenever someone joins a new team or a new project or something like this, the question I always want to know is like, what do you wish you knew when you started?
Yeah,
like what would it take for you to jump in? What do you wish
that's
you
a
knew?
good one.
I'm gonna just capture that.
So I wrote down David's 3 and then I can add mine and then.
And then
4 is like a good number, 4 or 5. But was there like one specific one, Michelle, that you think we're leaving out? Because I agree, it's really hard to both to give that kind of feedback if it's super detailed, and also then to act on it on the other end if you have to go through like 30 points to pull out what you want to change.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I just brainstormed some. I haven't looked at them since I wrote them, but I can if you want. I think that like I was envisioning it as a conversation so that things could be kind of followed up on, but if that's not an option, then you really have to simplify it. So
yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think simplifying is good, and then you can simplify but also complexify, right? So you can make the survey simpler, but make the questions open-ended, so that people can say more. And I just say that just because
I don't, when I
it
get
is going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know there's so the issue is sometimes when people are asked open questions, they don't want to say anything, but.
Not just that, like, it's not that I don't want to say anything. It's just that, like, that doesn't cue me to think about anything. Maybe we can give examples under the question that goes.
I think that would be the way to do it. Is you have a general question, and then you could say, for example, and then you could make those examples of ways you could go.
Yeah.
Part of me is almost like we should just turn this into like a product survey, and it should be like a net promoter score, and it would be like how likely are you to recommend this volunteering activity to your friends?
If we can make it anonymous, that if we're gonna do it like for like without a personal like connection there, then maybe making it anonymous would make it easier for folks to write stuff that they are worried we might not be comfortable with.
Yeah, that's fine.
They like us, and that's a problem.
Yeah, that is a problem, right?
People, so they know how to answer it too. I mean, I think actually I really sometimes am very good at like asking for that kind of feedback after giving assignments and classes to try to have that be something that they're doing throughout the year, and maybe there are ways we can incorporate that into each week too. So it's just then you kind of people get habituated to what kind of feedback is valued, listened to, and accepted.
And all the lab students will get that as a weekly set of questions.
Okay.
They'll be asked what worked this week, what didn't work, and what should be different.
That's good. I like that. I think that's also, setting it as expectations is you need to be able to provide feedback and stuff. Because the thing is, we do have some team members who do speak up, but some of them who are really quiet, unless, broken up into little groups. And it made me laugh because there was a thing going around about how all the students are complaining about how they're not going to, be in class and they're not going to have all that engagement. And it was from a professor saying, have you ever tried to get classes to engage? When you just stand at the front of the class and you ask a question for like 5 minutes, no one says anything. But yeah, so I think, maybe if we take it and put it into an anonymous, it might provide a kind of sense of, they can be more open, because they do. We have a good relationship with the team members, So it's hard, I think, to give feedback, perhaps. I don't know.
Negative feedback.
And those are the people that were trying to, like, if everybody was like Eric, like, remember Eric stayed on the management call last week and like told us, if everybody was like Eric, we wouldn't need a freaking survey, right? Like, everybody, but everybody's not like Eric. So I think that's who we need to, and I think, to your point, anonymous is probably the easiest, or the most effective, I should say. To
remember, someone has to read them, so that's the other thing. So it has to be, manageable.
Yeah.
We had anonymous teacher surveys at UCT.
Yeah, we have those as well.
Feedback, and I always gave the feedback because I thought it was, good. Not a lot of people did give them, and 1 year, and now they're not really anonymous, right? Because it's online, like they can track you, okay? And 1 year, people just put like the most weird stuff, and this professor screenshotted it and put it in front of the class. And it was really uncomfortable. So there is downsides to anonymity is what I'm saying. But I think on this project where we've kind of dealt with these people every day, I don't know. I don't foresee anonymity being an issue. I think it just provides a little bit of maybe.
I don't, I think it's fine.
Okay.
I just want to be aware of our time because I've got some other meetings this afternoon.
We just wanted
everyone else does.
Michelle's put some things in the channel, and I also just wanted to get what forms we were going to send through.
Yeah. Kate, when is that training you're doing?
Thursday.
You want to talk about?
What's this?
Family law DV attorneys in Massachusetts. And I know it got, then I guess it got circulated a little beyond that. Like it got circulated to the Domestic Sexual Violence Council, which is kind of a lot of the same people, but also a lot of attorneys who do pro bono DV stuff as well, private attorneys. And then it seems like it got circulated beyond that, and there's some like cops on it too.
Yeah, that's what I just saw in the email.
How many people are signed up so far?
52. And the focus is supposed to
Great.
be how to use the 209A specifically. I don't know if it does, if anyone else wants to, be on it.
I'll be
Send me a link.
for support for sure.
Yeah, send us the link.
I'll be sure to
right, yeah.
screens backwards.
I mean, you can.
It's not 209A, it's our interview.
What do you mean?
Yes.
Well,
Our-
you're saying they're training
Yes, the R209A interview.
Yeah, I mean, if you want some support, I think we can provide. I think it'd help to know kind of.
Yeah, I
Well,
think they wanted, from
exactly
talking to
one,
Michelle, sorry. I think they want like most of it to kind of be more demo focused than the other
Okay.
training we did. Because she was
It's
like,
just
how
your
long,
part of the last talk.
yeah, expanded. Because she was like, how long do you need? I was like, I don't know, 10 minutes. She was like, no, how about an hour? And I'm like, okay. I was like, that's a long time. But yeah, I was thinking like the bulk of it, and from talking to Michelle, like make the bulk of it like showing kind of a more in-depth demo. And I've kind of been going back and forth on if it makes sense to even do the like pre-cooking or just figure out a semi-short route through it.
Mhm.
I don't know. I welcome input on that.
You know what you could do is have a few interviews running, so you don't have to go through the entire thing.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
pre-cooking.
That's what you're talking about, pre-cooking, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it probably still makes sense to pre-cook, but it might be different things that might be more interested to a group of
And,
legal
I mean,
aid lawyers who are, I would expect, generally going to be almost all familiar with the forms already.
Right.
I think the other
Audience.
thing about the pre-cooking is that if you have sort of 5 screens, you're already a certain stage in 5 screens, people can say, well, what would happen if I went here? I mean, you have a lot more flexibility, so people could
If
see.
you can remember which screens you put what on.
Yeah, I mean, there were some technical
but-
challenges with that. I ended up having to do every pre-cooked screen in a different web browser.
I can show you how to fix that. I can show you how to fix that, how you'll be able to do
Because
multiple.
David and I
stuff.
tried for a while.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
there was an
Did you-
issue with the
did you
way it
use
was
new
sharing
session
the.
one?
The what?
Did you do new session equal?
Yeah, we did do a new session. It was causing. Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yeah,
It was
and
an
it just, it
interesting-
really wanted to jump to whatever one I had the furthest ahead, all of them. It would like bring me to the screen I wanted, but then would jump ahead to the screen that the furthest thing was on.
Yeah, and we
We
did do
tried
new
like
session one.
saving different sessions and going back to those, and it would just.
But we just
always go to
segregated
the
based
furthest ahead.
upon cookies.
That's
and,
that's kind of a problem.
It's
Because
not-
if
Yeah,
So it's an
everyone's signing the
advantage if
same
you
thing.
leave it and want to come back to it. It's also an advantage. So
No, I know, but like if
Yeah, no,
one
it's not the
person is
behavior
filling
that
out
is
multiple
expected.
forms like an attorney, then
No.
they were going to have a problem with that.
Yeah.
It has to do with what happens when you are running from the playground, I believe.
Oh, okay.
right.
Kate, just on how best to do this, you're saying maybe the simplest way through, but there are definitely certain things that would not come in on the simplest way that you'd want to
Right.
kind of show off.
Yeah, like they might. Last time we didn't do anything with the affidavit of care. I kind of
Right.
feel like this group maybe they'll be impressed by the affidavit of care.
Yeah.
But you
And
can have one that's lined up to the affidavit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And just, I mean, you know this already, but to the extent that you can head off at the pass any concerns people are going to express. I thought you did a marvelous job the last time we had the webinar, so I would just.
Oh yeah.
I would
And a friend of mine
just
was on there.
don't change anything. Just add more. Add more to it.
And then part of me was like, maybe I should show like a very short form. I was like, should I show like a very short form before starting the 209A? Be like, this is what the affidavit of indigency like looks like, just so it's they
So
have
they know what they're looking at.
right.
Or
They have an idea of what we're doing during the much longer 209A.
you go through the shortest version of the 209A, right? And then on the separate
Even that's
screen-
still pretty
Yeah,
long.
even that's pretty long. There's like a one pager. If you just like did the temporary restraining order.
Yeah.
And said, this is an example of something we did. Very simple.
This is what will
Uh,
come out
It
at the
helps
end.
give more context of like the final product. Because I think even like when you explain it, I think some people still have trouble like
Yeah, definitely.
knowing what
Yeah.
we mean.
You definitely do.
And you definitely want to make it clear. It's like,
Really
this is not pinch and zoom with your PDF on your phone.
Right.
It's like, dun, 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 dun.
No, I
You
think
could give an example of pinch and zoom.
What it's not.
We don't have to
What
sell
is
them
it?
on the tool probably as much, right? Or it's more
Right.
like a training.
yeah, I think I mean the audience I think is a pretty friendly audience, except I didn't apparently court staff are on it. I don't know who sent that to them.
Okay, well that's
We
that's
didn't.
good, actually.
Fine.
Yeah.
I think, Kate, if court staff are on it, that means they're interested in it, so they're going to be friendly,
Because no one's
Yeah.
making them join.
Right.
No.
You know which courts, if you want to offline, maybe you can send us which court staff if you have questions.
Yeah, I can ask Rochelle can probably send us a list. She has the list.
What time is it?
10.
Well, you're going to send us the link, right?
Yeah. I think you have it, David.
I feel like I was supposed to. I was on an email that said I wanted it, but I didn't see it. Oh, there it is. On Wednesday? I have it on Wednesday.
I have it on Thursday, so I should check that.
Jill did send something out.
And
too.
here is Kate to present. Kate?
Oh no,
But
that's the feedback, Caroline. That's Caroline's invite.
Oh yeah.
How about-
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't have the.
The
I don't
training.
have-
Rochelle sent us an email saying, here's a heads up, but she didn't have the link to the,
Yeah, that's what I was missing.
the presentation.
Would it start off as a Clavic training or Family Law Task
Family
Force?
Law Task Force, and I think it probably also went to Clavic. It's like I feel like at least 50% overlap anyway.
Sorry, for the third time, I'm going to ask you, what time is it at on Thursday?
Trying to figure this out. I think that's what she's trying to do.
Oh, that's what we're trying to do. Right. Okay. Just checking. And I hadn't missed it because I'd love to be on that. I think you did so well last time. And as I said, people
Thursday
from
10 a.m.
10 a.m.
Yeah.
All right, you'll send the links around. The link around.
I
Right?
don't know if I have all. Yeah. Oh yeah. I can get it on Slack. Yeah. I was like, I don't
Is
have
there a
all your
limit to the
emails.
is there a limit to how many people can register? So we need to like.
I don't think so.
I was
All
gonna
right, I
say-
emailed
Who's hosting it? Okay, is Rochelle hosting it?
Rochelle and Jamie. Yeah.
Okay, so they're gonna probably use the big Zoom, so there shouldn't be. They have like 1,000 or something. There's a big limit.
Yeah. Yeah. I figured MLRI had. They're doing that.
Yeah, they're doing that.
We're doing that.
Um,
But yeah, if you need anything from us, just let us know.
okay.
If you want someone to back you up or be there as a second voice, or if you just want to know someone's in the audience that you can then say, oh, so-and-so's in the audience, or if you want a ringer to ask questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was
Calling
trying
on
to
the
think like if there's
affidavits.
questions that I wouldn't know the answer to.
Mhm.
I mean, if I really get stuck and like I could just say,
I mean-
we'll look into it.
They're not
Last-
gonna be techie enough to ask a question.
Well,
I think-
last time there was the question of like, is where like what happens to the information people
That
are
was
giving?
my partner, guys.
Well, now I feel like I could. It's really encrypted in a way that only 2 people who've signed a lot of waivers have access to, and it gets deleted. Is any of that
Good
right?
summary. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
10 out
For
of 10.
information, I can connect you with Quentin and David.
So I just have a question on this. If people were to email it to themselves or a friend, the email address, the data in the email address works. Why are you shaking your head?
They can't. We haven't provided a link that will be able to link someone to the actual interview. They can link.
That's
to
not-
Signature
that's
one. Signature one does.
What?
Let's wait for the full question to be asked.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
When you complete your interview and you have a PDF of all your forms, the email address that you put in there, if you want to email your PDF to your advocate or your best friend, that email address works differently than the data in the interviews in terms of the way the server collects information. Is that right? Or is that wrong?
Depends on what you mean.
Well, it
So-
sends you a link. It sends you an attachment, I think,
Yeah.
of the forms, right? So you can't jump back into the interview there.
Yeah,
But
no,
with-
what I mean is on the Suffolk servers, the data is there for a while. How quickly is it deleted?
It's
90 days after.
days.
And
Right, that's what I
Whatever
thought.
back
Okay,
end that
so
we have.
the data in the interviews is on the server for 90 days. But the
or
email,
less if you delete it actively.
Or more if you're actively
What do you
using
mean
Or
it.
more if
you?
you're
You
actively.
mean the
Yeah.
user or us? Who's you?
90 days of inactivity, it gets deleted.
So if you create an
Inactivity means
account, if you
user,
create
right,
an
right.
account and come back, you can keep it alive. If you don't
Okay, and
create
if
an
you
account and
if you don't create an account, the data is on our servers for 90 days.
but also if you create an account, you can then go in and proactively delete it.
Okay.
So if you
That's-
don't create an
but if
account
you
90
don't-
days, if you do create an
Right.
account, it could be less or more based upon your actions.
Okay. All right. Now, that data is on our server for 90 days. If you were to take your PDF and email it to an advocate, the advocate's email address is more data. Does that also get saved on our server for 90 days, or is that just a email done, one and done?
What's a one and done?
Right.
So we don't save that
Just
email
like
address
an
anymore.
action the server takes and there's no reason for it to remember that
And that's
email.
not in the log files at all.
It would be in the log files, yes. Those get rotated pretty quickly, though. I think we keep, it's probably like 10 days of log files, I think, because the log rotate happens at least once a day.
So the answer is that it's held for a short amount of time.
Shorter, yeah. Still held, but shorter, right? Okay.
Only
We
one
could-
person I can think of who could ask these questions, and I don't think she's going to be on it.
Who's that?
But I think
Belinda from GBLS.
Who is
She's
it?
always Belinda. She's always telling us what apps we can and can't like
Oh, I
use with
see, yeah.
DV stuff.
I was saying if it's housing, it'd be Paul Shack.
But you will have, I mean, I'll definitely be there, not to answer the question, but I'll be there. You can refer to, if David and Quentin and Michelle are on the call, you can refer to your learned co-counsel. You know what I
Yes.
mean? It's not, I think you did fantastically last time. I think,
Mhm.
it's just a bit bigger, it's a bit longer, different audience.
Yeah. And I actually think having some police on there is good because they do a lot of lot of restraining orders start with the police, like at the police
Again,
station.
you're gonna
Like,
get the ones you're getting are the ones who are gonna be interested and care
Exactly.
about it.
Exactly.
I
yeah,
mean-
I would love it if police stations
Yeah.
Yeah,
set
use
people
this.
up with this.
Right?
Well, I think you can just do so much more with, like, my suspicion is that the average person who's not an advocate, because there are a bunch of people who are not advocates or help people fill stuff out, that they do not do as thorough a job as this interview does.
Sure.
Right.
Well, we know even advocates don't with the affidavit of care.
Yeah.
So I think,
I wanted
yeah.
to. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, reiterate the points that, it's the conversation and what they, like we're going to have a feedback meeting. You will have you will have had a feedback meeting the previous day.
Mhm.
So it's always evolving.
Yeah.
Do you need someone to help moderate the chat? Assuming Rochelle will do that for you already, but that's just.
I was kind of assuming that, but
Why don't you
maybe I
double
should
check that?
assume
Yeah, double check that, and then if that isn't, then you can reach out and we can between
Yeah.
us divide that
For
up.
sure.
yeah, because it is hard to see the chat while
Yeah, it
you're
is.
also
Yeah.
screen
Yeah.
sharing.
pretty much need
Yeah.
someone else.
Yeah, I also didn't know if like slides in addition. I figured most of it would just be screen sharing the interview.
I think that works
Using
well
s-
for a demo.
I don't
Yeah.
think you need
Show the
what other slides
website.
would you need?
None.
Maybe that first
I
slide
would just
of the
have like
phone.
contact information and then how to get to
Yeah.
the form. Those would be the only slides I would do.
Okay.
Is
I
there a
was
way
gonna show like
to
the
do
website itself,
quick-
be like, look here.
But do you
Is
remember
there
that
a
one I
way
think
to
David
do-
did with the phone and the computer?
Well, are we here? Hold on though. Are we assuming that everyone that's like you said, police are going to be on there? Did we have police last time? Like you may want to do some kind of an intro, like short version of what just your part, Kate. Like you might want to do, or actually you might want to do a short version of everybody's just to kind of give people an intro and some background because not everybody that saw the last one is going to be looking at yours.
A short version of what?
The idea that there's a big team working on this.
Yeah,
that,
yeah. I
you
mean,
know,
that was.
I mean,
I was kind of going through, and I was like, figured start with like a little bit of background information about the project as a whole. Like, say there's
Yeah.
a bunch
Yeah.
of forms.
And so maybe you could pull some of the slides from the last presentation if that's helpful.
I mean, I could also just have like the Mass Access website up in the background, and like talk over that. That way
Also,
there's
people
something
really just
visual
like-
to look at.
Yeah. Also, people really like looking at faces.
Yeah.
Especially in this time when you're either looking at your screen or your face, right? It's
Right.
or backwards version of your slides behind you. Either way.
I I feel like questions about translation will come up. I feel like that's one that legal aid people will
Definitely,
ask.
yeah.
So all of them are being translated, right?
Well, so right now we're still waiting to we still need to work on getting the translation from, and I actually need to work on
And
that
I was
some
gonna
more,
ask,
the translation.
what
But
time?
we're
time
working
check
on
is it?
that.
It's 2:00.
Uh,
David, did you have to
Hmm.
jump off?
I have something at 2:30.
Okay, perfect. Okay, carry on.
But thank you for thinking about it. Yeah, so we are working on getting them translated. That's taking a little longer than,
Yeah.
that's, but we are working on that.
And now we know that if somebody submits their 209A affidavit in another language, that the court will translate that.
Yeah, in the same way that they normally would if they submitted it in another language.
Yeah.
And it'll get the same, certification, etc. So,
Well, it's not exactly the same.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
It'll be the same people. It'll be the same.
Yeah,
court.
usually, well, I guess they'll be at their hearing. So usually the translator reads.
Yeah, but
it
these are
back.
different than the interpreters. So these are the court's internal translation staff.
Yeah.
So they're
But usually they read the affidavit back to the plaintiff and get the plaintiff's agreement that it is what they said it was. And then they have to sign the bottom of the form. But I imagine they can do that when they do their Zoom hearing or whatever, they can do that over the phone.
What was I going to ask? Any chance it's going to be linked from the court's website by Thursday?
hopefully. I was told last week that either the end of last week or beginning of this week. That being said, I've been told things will happen on a particular day for multiple days in a row for a long time.
Yeah, because that would be nice to show. And then I could even show the court's website and be like, look.
That would be really nice.
Yeah.
I don't know. As soon as it goes up, I'll let you know.
The third
Assuming
link on the page is to Mass Legal Help, so Mass Legal Help could link to it from there.
Oh, yeah.
Difference.
We have like 18 or 22 links to it, so wherever you want to go. Once you find the one page we're not linked to it, but I'll link to it on Thursday.
No, I think this will be good, and I think I'm still, even though I know it's not just 100% legal aid, that was like the original intended audience.
Yeah.
So I feel like the target audience,
Just
in my
remember,
mind,
Kate,
is like attorneys with some more explanation maybe for non-attorneys.
you have to represent yourself as the 209A czar for the project.
100%.
Maybe I'll come up with something,
Quentin.
I don't know. What, Quentin?
Quentin's making a little.
A little,
Little tiara.
I think he was thinking, I was thinking Russian hat.
Yeah, what was it called? The really tall, furry one.
Yeah, I bet we can find a picture for that.
But yeah, I mean, and also you've got that initial one to draw on.
So you want that.
Yeah.
So you've got a kind of base to go from, and I guess it is just a little bit different, especially with cops on. That for me is
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're going to be cops who want to help people fill out forms.
Yeah, it's probably like the DV coordinator from some police. Yeah, I bet Rochelle would share the list.
It's good. I like that there are this because these are people who are going to take this
Right.
and then use it.
Yeah.
So this is really great.
Yeah.
Right. And cops assist with a lot of restraining orders, and some better than others, and I like the idea of giving them tools to
Yes.
do
Absolutely.
better.
Yeah.
Sure.
Something you could ask them is, it may not be a good thing, but sometimes it's good to have an ask for people in the audience. If they're police officers, what are ways we could better link to their help? Because we've talked about how we can link to specific DV agencies to get assistance filling out the form. And we know that we already tell people call your local police station. We don't say how to figure out who to talk to in the police station.
Yeah.
Right.
The gap.
It might be a good thing to talk with people about, but it might not be the best thing for that venue.
Maybe
I'm
not.
just trying to think about the politics.
but if you do want questions to be asked of you, Kate, questions like maybe, when you open up the floor and some, I mean, it didn't happen last time. Everyone was just jumping on with questions, but sometimes it's this kind of like awkward, right? So do we have any questions or,
Yeah.
if you want to get one or two, that you feel comfortable answering that we could just put in the channel.
Yeah. If any of you are there and people are silent, throw on,
Kate, how did you become so awesome?
what would something that you feel comfortable answering or that you feel would kind of promote more discussion or
Well, an interesting
how did you make sure the questions weren't too leading?
Okay.
That's a
No,
good
I
point.
don't know. I mean, I was gonna say that probably anyway.
I
I
think
don't
an
know.
interesting question would be how did you, Kate, decide this? You wanted to get involved in this project. I mean, what about this project attracted you?
That was
The team.
Matt Brooks called me and said, "Can you answer 1 or 2 questions about family law?" I said, "Sure."
100 hours later.
Yeah.
Really are.
Family law questions are like open book.
Nice.
Yeah.
And where is Matt now? Where is Matt now?
Matt is with his new dog, Autumn. Super cute.
Aw.
Guys, you need to see this dog. She's really adorable.
All right.
Um,
My phone's telling me my meeting's at 2:20, not 2:30.
Oh no.
So
So
Forms.
something I wanted to cover real quick, just if we only have people for a month, we might want to go back to a minimum viable product process. Like, for example, our review screens for forms that are short, a minimum viable product feature. And I think this will serve us well in thinking about how to use the limited time students have, right? Like what is it we want? Do we want it? Because and though the review, like in the reviews of the forms, there's a lot of great stuff brought up. I'm not sure all of the things that are brought up are minimum viable product.
I think that's true. That's
So
true.
if we
Distinguishing
want,
between
if we want to
those.
get the forms out, like, ready to be out by the time they leave, I think we need to come to an understanding of what we want out of those forms so
Okay.
that they don't stand to fill the time. That's all.
Right, 100%.
Well put.
That's a good point, Michelle. And I think that so when we're giving reviews, we distinguish between minimum viable product and kind of extra features. And we did that well with Sinead and Finola, where they actually put everything down as issues, prioritized those issues, and I think they actually got through all of them. So kind of distinguishing when is the product an MVP, when can it be sent to the court? And on that note, I would say the
Good
generic.
segue.
I would
Good
say that
segue.
generic motion for family law and the there's another one that was ready. I'm just having for the
There were the
Not the
vacate
civil action cover sheet.
default judgment in housing and vacate default judgment in consumer.
housing.
Leave marital home.
No,
So
that
many
one's
vaca-
already
so
been-
many types of
I
vacating.
see.
Lots
Yeah.
of vacating, yeah.
Um,
And not vacationing either.
Yeah.
The motion to vacate default judgment in housing.
yeah. But
That
that
was
was,
the-
we were waiting for some language and with Gordon on that.
Yeah, we're meeting with Gordon on Thursday on that one.
Mhm.
Okay.
So the emergency order to the generic form, that sounds like one. So this goes to Quentin's bit about moving it to the test server so that we can share it.
Mhm. Did you say that the problem that you were having before with having multiple screens is that unique to displaying from your playground, or would that be true in the test server as well?
It should only be true on the playground, to what I know. Because when you hit save and run, it creates it invalidates the old session, basically, that you had open.
Yeah,
So-
I think
so-
that the problem is, I think that when Kate and I did it, we were using the one that was in test.
Yeah.
And we were using either the session new or the,
So you can only have
Vision-
one open and a tab at a time in the same browser window.
that was the problem.
Mhm.
But it shouldn't have overwritten the session. So if you went to
Yeah,
like
it didn't over,
save
yes.
users, it would be there.
What you've described is exactly the issue, is it was the multiple, so we had to have, that's why we segregated them across browsers.
Right. I
So
had,
Michelle, the
like-
nice thing is that shouldn't be the issue that you thought it was.
Yeah. But if it's a playground issue, could you go to the
But
server
I don't think it was. We
version?
weren't in the playground.
No, I misunderstood. So yeah, if you only can have one active session per interview URL at a time in one browser.
Mm.
Doesn't mean that you're going to lose your information. So like if an advocate's helping a bunch of people, they can do that, but they only can be working in one person's interview at a time. In the
I
same
wish
browser.
there were a way to communicate that, because I don't know how we'd communicate that, but that seems like a non-obvious problem that people
Well,
would
you
not be
wouldn't-
able to solve
Most
for
people
themselves.
wouldn't have their interview running in different tabs.
Well, if they see multiple, okay.
No,
You all know lawyers, so
Yeah.
I trust you.
But I do think there was some confusion there because obviously Kate and I tried to deal with it in a way that caused confusion.
Right, but you were trying to demonstrate it. I mean, your use of it was not typical.
Right. Yeah, I feel like the forms are pretty like now that I'm especially using it with a real client, like it's still pretty like intensive. Like you wouldn't be balanced. You'd be hard pressed to be balancing 2 clients at once on this.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
You
And
wouldn't
if you
do
wanna
were,
do
you'd
that.
save them,
Right.
right? If you were,
Yeah.
you'd save them and then come back to the saved one for that client, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it wasn't that wasn't working. Like I
No.
could get back to the original point. It just jumped ahead then.
Yeah, it was the fact that there were 2 open in the
Mhm.
2 different tabs.
Yeah.
So that's something you should definitely do in your training is show advocates how to create accounts if that's something they want to do, right? I can also imagine that's something they don't want to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? So just letting people know the benefits of one or the
It's
other.
like optional.
Yeah, and letting them know that they can come back and finish it later. Actually,
Yeah.
I found people who used Made every day did not realize that they didn't have to finish it all in one go.
Yeah. And that's the benefit of the saving, right?
Yeah.
Is that little review your saved answers or whatever, that little thing up at the top right-hand corner, is that part of a live interview now? So everybody should have that then.
Yep, that should help make it more discoverable, I think. But you only see it if you've already created an account.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because
if
there's
you
nothing
haven't
to
created an
save.
account, you don't see it.
Yeah, because you don't have saved
Gotcha.
questions.
I mean, we
All-
see it because we're logged into Playground, but yeah.
All right. So we've got the generic motion. Someone needs to get to Quentin where it is so that we can put it on
Okay.
the test server.
That's the one
Or
I'm going to review
someone else,
for
I
me.
could train
Or
how to-
Quentin can tell someone how to do it. I like that even better.
Yeah.
That would be ideal.
And record that session. So Caroline, can you please ping
Mia and
once?
Vinny. It's Mia
Yeah.
and Vinny, right?
Yeah, it's me and Vinny. Can you ping once you've done that review, or do you have access to it right now?
I asked her to send it to me. I don't know if she has yet. Let's see. No, it's just I've asked her. She hasn't responded.
And then once you've done that review, and they've made those amendments, we can set up a call with Quentin, and maybe just Mia, or maybe Mia and Vinny, depending on his availability, to record that process.
Yeah.
Is that okay, Quentin?
Yeah, that works.
I'll just message Mia now.
We
Or
have
someone
a,
else who thinks they might want to help do that generally, that would be good too. But if the answer might be no, then we just record it so that people can do it.
Mhm.
and have Maeve, because I'm gonna have to jump over my call. Have you dealt with Spencer Atkin yet?
Yeah. So
Okay.
he's up and running now. He just needs a form to do. So
All right. Because I think he's going to be interested in getting pro bono hours because he's set up a meeting with me. So
I just told him to set up a meeting with you just so that he can get to know and show his face. I can't remember what he said about pro bono hours. I said it's a good idea just to start getting them.
in the email to me, he said, and information concerning pro bono hours related to the project, etc. So
Okay. So he's in. Okay. So we need a form for him. He's going to be, I think, one of our longer term team members.
Okay.
Especially because his campus is going online, and I think that as we are losing a lot of students, we're kind of gaining some who are looking for extracurricular. So what form can we give him? I don't want to give him like a starting one. I'm just looking at the triage.
Well, when we have one person, we often try to fold them into a team. It's when we have two people, we've done their own. It's a lot to do on your own if you've.
Although your point is that his timeline will be different from the teams that are going on.
What about Eric?
Oh, that seems like a good.
Because Eric's also going to be a longer term.
Yeah.
The only thing is the time difference because he's on mountain time.
He's
So
a
it's a
mountain
little
in
bit
Denver.
bigger.
It's like 7 or 8 hours. It's 8 hours, right?
Something bigger than 6. I don't know. So time, but I mean, it seems to have been working well in the sense that Eric has his afternoons free and they kind of working in the morning, but if Spencer's working in the evening or afternoon, that's not going to work. Let's see who else.
Well, I'm going to talk with him in a couple minutes.
Oh,
5
that's
minutes
the
to
call
be
now.
exact.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the call I'm going to jump to. So I can ask him about his morning availability. But okay, so so where is Eric? Eric's just they're finishing up a form, right?
Yeah, they're on the with Sam Roth and Mark Raymond doing the affidavit of indigency supplement. Was that Caroline or was that an echo?
I feel like that's a true MVP, that one.
Yeah.
It might be nice to take that one and run it through again.
Maybe, yeah. Well, I feel really bad because we gave them a task that had partially done with the financial statement already, and I do wish that they had started with that model to begin with. I'm not sure it was at the right step to engage with it, so maybe that was just a.
Kind of a grab bag.
You're thinking about it, Caroline, right?
Yeah.
You dread it? Is that what you're saying?
No, I said it was
maybe,
a grab bag. It wasn't.
Oh, it's a grab bag.
Well, maybe the thing is to take Eric and him and throw them on something entirely new. Do we have someone who's working on complaint for contempt?
That's Lenny, Jason, and
Oh.
James, and that was what I wanted to see everyone's availability because they need to do their first demo.
Okay, that's why I didn't know who would working on it because we hadn't seen it yet.
So, what's everyone's kind of availability like to budget an hour?
How about the pet? Who's doing the pet?
Alex Faye. He's on pet protection with Michael Miller, and he just come back from bar exam, and he's got about 2 or 3 weeks to get that wrapped up before he starts work.
What about the military affidavit? Who was working on that?
Oh, yeah.
Adi did some work on that. I think maybe Mark Ferrato started on that, and then Adi did it.
Also, it might be in Melina's
Really
divorce
close.
packet.
Yeah.
Okay.
It might already be there.
Oh, she might have already done it, you're saying. It's part of it.
Yeah, because it's something you would usually file with.
You know what? She's just put it on GitHub. We can just have a quick look if she has.
What about another CRA one?
The other request for counsel form.
Oh yeah, that's a hard one.
No, it's very simple. Request for counsel?
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, very simple.
I like it.
For the parents?
Yeah, it's very, very simple.
Oh yeah, well, you've been asking for that.
Is it one already on the courts, or is that a new?
Not on their list.
It's
one they It's one they try to hide because they don't want to pay for it.
They don't want to pay. Oh, right.
That's okay. Add it. So Maeve, add it to the list then. And
so it is on the list already.
Oh, it is.
I think yeah.
Or you added it already.
I've been petition for appointment.
The other one that's not on the courts list. I mean, I think the other one we want to do. I don't know if they'll be ready for it, but is alternate service. Because Kate pointed out they've just changed that form. There's a memo from Chief Justice Casey about using it.
Yeah,
in divorce.
That form's a good bit more complicated than the request for counsel forms, like name.
Yeah, no, I was saying instead of request for counsel.
Yeah.
All right, so I think request.
I fully support doing the alternate service at some point.
Maybe we should make that be our next one.
Request for counsel though next up. So when I talk to him in 2 minutes, I'll mention that someone will be in touch with him about
the other request for counsel is already there, so it's almost like you just copy it and adjust it.
Yeah, just make sure he's doing request for counsel for parents and not redoing
request
for counsel for the kids.
It's application for appointment of counsel for parent of minor child, guardianship of minor.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to change that to in progress. It's line 50, and then I'll assign him to the card and maybe we can, if you can ask him about his availability, just ask him to get in touch with me to see if we can meet again today.
All right. Sounds good. I'll do that. And then it sounds like everyone else has something to work on. Is that right? We don't have anyone sitting around spinning their wheels? I love the
Mm.
day when someday we'll have someone sitting around spinning their wheels.
There's no, that doesn't exist.
What? That's gonna happen?
If I can talk, speaking of which, if I can talk to you, Clinton, later, I think I have something that will take like 2 minutes, but it'll have to be later because I have a bunch of people waiting for me right now.
Well, David and I both have this faculty meeting coming up.
Yeah.
So I don't think I have.
And my son has just discovered my old Star Wars toys in the basement. So this is fun.
My mom
Great.
sold all of ours at a garage sale, and I wanted to kill her.
Oh my
right.
god. So very
Don't tell.
unhelpful.
I have to jump off.
All right, I gotta go too. All right.
Okay, guys.
Bye.
This call will disappear. Sorry.
Okay. I don't think
Alright.
it does though. I think we. Oh, it will.
Oh, just wait. It will, because I'll have to jump on another one.
So we might just
All right.
Okay.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.